read and understood the Leadership and Integrity Act number 19 of 2012 and commit to abide by the General Leadership and Integrity Code set out under Part 2 of the Act. Sworn at Kisumu by the said Peter Anyang' Nyong'o on this 21st day of August, the year of our Lord 2017.
Thank you very much. We now go to the second session of signing.
Well, live pictures there from Kisumu County, where Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, former senator of Kisumu County, has now taken his oath of office. He is going through the process of being sworn in. We expect that he'll also be handed, the instruments of power will be given to him by the former governor there, Jack Ranguma. I hope that we'll be able to get some of those images. I'm told he's now signing the documentation that will make this concrete. Of course, we've seen this happening in all the counties. This is part of the law, part of the legal process. The swearing in, as we were discussing with my panel earlier, is both a legal and political process. And what you're seeing there is Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o going through the legal process, signing all the documentation that has been placed before him. He's accompanied by members of his family. He's running mate, he's not running mate rather, deputy governor now. And clearly you can see that in what is a very elaborate process, the most important part is less than 20 minutes when they are sworn in, that is the incoming governors, or if it's an incumbent governor who got a second seat, when they sign this documentation, and of course as they receive the instruments of power, then that takes care of the formal or solemn part of the ceremony. The rest of course is all just a lot of fanfare, razzmatazz, glitz, glamour, entertainment, song and dance, but this is the core of the ceremony. And in this case in Kisumu, it is a transfer of power. In other counties like Migori, it is a continuation of the status quo. But of course, because it's a fresh term, then of course Obado will also have to go through a ceremony pretty much like this one. But of course, he will not be given the instruments of power by an outgoing governor, because he is the incumbent governor, and it is a continuation of his administration. Those being some of the challenges of a live environment, our cameramen there scrambling to get the best picture while possibly being pushed by members of the public. Of course, course, an exciting ceremony there in Kisumu County. Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o moving from senator to governor-elect, and in the next minute or so, we will officially start calling him governor of Kisumu County. I can see he's accompanied there by his wife, Dorothy Nyong'o. His deputy governor there, I believe, Matthew Owili, will also be accompanying him and assisting him moving forward in managing the affairs of Kisumu County. Let's now take a look at Nyeri County, where Patrick Wahome Gakuru was given the vote or the sign of confidence by voters there. His deputy being sworn in now, and any minute now we expect Patrick Wahome Gakuru, who won the gubernatorial race on the Jubilee Party, to give a speech. Of course, they have to go through the various processes there. Remember that Nyeri County, where the former governor passed on while in office, Rigathi Gachagua, and then Samuel Wamadhai, who was the deputy governor then, this showing how important deputy governors are in counties because of the continuity role, took over for a few months. Unfortunately for him, he lost in the nomination, vied as an independent candidate, but he was not able to use the few months he had in office to overcome Patrick Wahome Gakuru, who bagged the Jubilee Party ticket and then romped into office with 285,503 votes rather, and his running mate Mutahi Kahiga there, accompanying him through this whole process, also taken his oath of office, and they will receive the instruments of power, if that hasn't happened already, from Samuel Wamadhai, who came second in this particular race, while Patrick Maina Munene Cairo was third. He vied on that Democratic Party ticket and garnered 19,571 votes. So the race in Nyeri County pretty much looking like a two-horse race, although there were three candidates. Race between the Jubilee Party candidate who took it and the independent candidate, who is Samuel Wamadhai, who was the incumbent governor, albeit for a few months with the passing on of the late Rigathi Gachagua. So we're trying to monitor the situation across the country. We've just come from Kisumu County, where we see that the solemn part of the program there has pretty much come to an end, with Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o going through the process with his running mate Matthew Owili. Rather, his deputy governor now, beg your pardon, Matthew Owili. It will take some time to get used to this new wording. My panelists here quite amused by the immediate change of language from calling, someone governor-elect or former senator or senator, and now referring to them by their new title, which is what will be referring to them, calling them now moving forward. So we need to get used to it real quick. Gentlemen here in studio with me will be coming back to you to discuss that shortly. We'll also be crossing over to Siaya County, where Colonel Wasanga, given a fresh mandate by the voters there, he was vying on an ODM ticket rather. He garnered 196,186 votes. At least those are the numbers we have, from the IEBC. He was running against quite a tight race there against Nicholas Gumbo. Another case where Nicholas went the way of independence, but that did not work out well for him. It was a tight race though, because Nicholas Gumbo got 179,167 votes. So there's a difference of about 20,000 in Siaya County, and we'll be crossing over there shortly. But the images that you are watching on your screen, if you just joined us, are from Nyeri County, where Governor Patrick Wahome Gakuru and Deputy Governor Mutahi Kahiga going through the last part of the swearing in. Let's just watch and see what will happen there, but we can also come back and also take you now to Siaya County. Lots happening today. Busy, big day for several counties: Nairobi, Uasin Gishu, Kisii, Kisumu, Nyeri, among others. Siaya, Migori, elected governors taking their oath of office, and that is, of course, the big story of the day. How will these new county administrations take shape? How will incumbent governors change their mode of operation with their second term? And how will new governors, I guess, apply pressure? Some of them coming in with very interesting orders even before they have officially been sworn in. Some of them preferring not to have elaborate inauguration ceremony, saying they want a simple ceremony. because for them development is what is key. The voters gave them the mandate because of their promise of development, and they would like to start developing immediately. We've seen interesting instances in Nairobi County where Governor Mike Sonko already, with his Sonko rescue team moving around to clean the city. Of course, we hope we can have an interview with him or his deputy governor soon, just to understand their strategy. We've seen cases like in Kitui County where Governor-elect Charity Ngilu had also said that she doesn't see the need for a very elaborate process. Give me some space and a Bible, and I will be sworn in just like anyone else, in a similar manner to anyone who may have had an elaborate ceremony. I would prefer for the funds be allocated to more important projects like water in our county, which has been a bit of a challenge. And so, will these sort of quote-unquote, I don't know how to call them, a miserly approach, keeping resources where they should be. How long will that last? And of course, for those governors who may choose to give subsidies in their counties, how will they raise money? Bearing in mind, that a lot of money that comes from the national government might be used in recurrent expenditure, salaries, and so forth. So lots of interesting expectations from the counties and what will happen there as well. I think we're now ready to cross over to Siaya County. Take a look at what is happening there. Cornel Rasanga given a second chance there. Nicholas Gumbo posed quite a challenge to the incumbent governor there, but lost with 20,000 votes or so. Let me see then what I can do here with my panelists in studio, if even has got a chance to cross over to Siaya County. Again, reconstituting my panel in studio. Let me start with the incumbent panelist in studio, Michael Agwanda. I guess you have learned from your past hour here. So we're the only incumbents here. Justus Gare, political analyst. Welcome to the broadcast. Eric Wanjohi, also a political analyst. Welcome to the program. Raphael Obonyo, public policy specialist. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you so much.
You're all seeing what's happening in the counties. Michael, you had a chance to comment. Let me give my other panelists a chance to comment. Let me start with you, Eric. Your take on what we are seeing this morning?
It's a good day for Kenya, but we still want to see what
your bat has come very
we're eager to see whether these people that are coming in will actually transform themselves into what they have been campaigning about. We want to see change in most of these counties, and we want to know whether they have what it takes to bring about the kind of change that we've been talking about. So it's a good day. Now that they're in, no more excuses, no more pushbacks. It's now a matter of delivering. Okay. And that's what we are waiting for.
No more excuses. Tough talk from Eric. Justus?
Thank you very much. Let me say that Kenya as a growing nation, we are seeing change. And the only thing that is permanent on earth is change. And the other thing I'm happy about is because not every governor retained his seat. That tells you a lot, that the voter is now maturing. The voter is now looking at what the kingpin is saying. And now they have promised us a lot of things, and we expect to see a lot of, when a woman is expected, when a woman wants to give birth, he's always having a zeal, a burning desire inside, that he wants, she wants maybe to give birth to a very good child and a very charming child. Kenya, when we passed the constitution, it's like we were giving birth to a child called devolution. And right now, we are seeing the immediate implementers of devolution, who are the governors, being sworn in. So what we expect from them is they should have learned from the mistakes of those who have been there, especially those who are coming in, because the voter, if you look at the case of maybe like Charity Ngilu who lost last time, and right now she has clinched a gubernatorial seat. Yes. That should tell you that the voter now is keen, is watching, and for you as being sworn in, you have to work for the people, because they will decide your fate.
My goodness, very tough talk here from my panelists in studio. Rafa, let me ask you a different question. Yes. We've really talked to governors this morning. We've lectured them, we've warned them that if they do not perform, that they will be sent home. Do we need to talk to voters? Do we need to tell them that as much as a politician can promise heaven, the reality on the ground is different? What I feel happened is that in addition to a lot of governors being sent home this time around, 25 out of 47, there were a lot of disappointed voters who trusted in governors, maybe had very great expectations of their governors and what they wanted to see in the counties, and that didn't happen. Should the voter also temper their expectations?
Certainly, and I think I want to say that, look, we are always sort of agitating for good leadership.
Yes.
But I've always argued that we cannot have good leadership, good leaders without having good citizens. And so I think we should cultivate the culture.
What does a good citizen look like?
A good citizen should be the citizen who is not demanding for, tokens, a citizen who is not satisfied with just getting handouts here and there, a citizen who is just not satisfied with promises, but a citizen who is more satisfied, who is actually demanding for action. And that means that our responsibility as citizens cannot end on election day. We need to continuously remain actively engaged. Remember, for devolution to work, we have things like key aspects like public participation. So we cannot hand over our roles of shaping devolution to governors. Governors are just leaders, but we must constantly remain engaged and hold these leaders accountable. Because remember, most of these leaders are not going to deliver simply because they want to deliver, but they're going to deliver because of the pressure that we put on them. Look at what is happening there. Most of them are saying, look, we're not going to spend a lot of money on these ceremonies. That is not out of their own volition. Many of them would want to spend all this money, but voters, like my colleagues have already said, are becoming more aware and are more concerned about sheer propensity. They are more concerned about service delivery. So if you're just there and all you want to do is to spend their money and waste their money, they're going to punish you. And remember, it's not after 5 years. Now we have county assemblies that are going to hold them in check. We have senators who are going to hold them in check. So governors have a tough job.
Governors have a tough job. Michael, corruption doesn't happen in a vacuum. When you accuse a county government of being corrupt, that money came from somewhere and ended up somewhere. And chances are that for voters, as much as some may have sent their governors home because of corruption, on the other hand, you could also ask that where did these corrupt funds end up? Did they not end up in campaign rallies where people are given tokens and that sort of thing? So do we also need to take time, maybe even allocate shows to talk about the culture of voters in Kenya and what they can do to keep their governors accountable, rather than just always taking time to say, governors need to do this? Because I feel that so the first 4.5 years, we've really told governors that you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. But should we also take a more holistic, a wider approach to this whole matter?
Correct. One of the things that we have to look at that perhaps created a lot of debate was that IBC did not do a lot of civic education, which they were supposed to do, and they were funded for that reason. But also, you will realize that the county government have also not done public participation in some of their projects as it is stipulated in the law, where the citizens have a right to decide on where a borehole, for example, is dug in their community.
Or a headquarter.
Or a headquarter is dug in the community. When you talk about corruption, we're talking about issues that perhaps the county government did to fulfill the letter of the law by going into a little hotel and inviting their cronies and calling that public participation. And then everybody perhaps saying, yeah, you agree with this, and yeah, and nobody knows. In America, in the Senate, there's something called pork bills. Pork bills are real bills that are embedded in the real bill. As you read the bill, there's a lot that is in there, and the underbelly of the bill, they're called pork bill. And then when they pass it, they pass it, we did a public participation, and it looks good, and then it enables them, for example, to reap where they did not sow. When it comes to issues of corruption in the county, you could see lifestyle. It is in the public domain that some public servants have been arrested with over 30 million and it was in the daily. And you're wondering, how did he make 30 billion within just a short time? His salary could be perhaps 200,000. Some people have actually even employed their wives and their sisters, and they're in the payroll that they don't even come to work. And those are some of the things that we are seeing in the county. We've seen cases where corruption is in the construction, where a tender is given to an individual that did not even apply for that tender, and then when he goes for his money, that money had been withdrawn by the very chief officers, and it used not necessarily for what it was intended, but just circumventing the process so that they can gain out of it. Lifestyle audit is key. But again, I will agree with my brother when he says that, look, it is the citizenry of this country and what we expect of our politicians. If you tell a politician that I will not vote for you until you give me something small, child, you think he will mind giving you child and all his skills will you. He will say, man, I'm just recouping my little money that I gave you the other day. Until we realize as a community that the money that the politicians are giving us will have to come from our very development money, then we will be somewhere. But as it is now, we will just hitting that wrong every day and nobody's listening.
We are comfortable taking that money because we believe it's their money and it's not our money as a county. Rafael, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, we've been told that it is true that the strongest office in any democracy is that of citizens. So citizens cannot take a sideline. I mean, so we cannot be on the sidelines and imagine someone else is going to do it for us. That is one. But counties are also developing what we call the strategic plans. So these governors will come with all the ambitions, all the ideas, all the promises. But for as long as it is not in the strategic plan, then it's just a wish, it's just a promise. So as citizens, we have to make sure that for them to translate these promises into action, they are in the strategic plans. And strategic plans are not developed anywhere else. They are developed in consultations with the public. So we really need to get involved. So we need to be engaged, we need to be involved, and we need to be active in shaping devolution in our various counties.
Eric, we saw an interesting phenomenon in the months building up to the general election. We saw counties holding state of the county meetings, a lot of them being live on TV. We saw investment forums, but all of them seemingly coming at the same time, months to the election. What lesson can incoming governors learn? Should such forums be annual? And also, should we look for a way to rate governors so that a lot of governors understand how they are being perceived from early on, and so that it keeps them accountable? I don't know how that would happen. Again, I'm just throwing ideas, out there. How can governors be kept accountable from the very beginning? I know that there are institutions that are put in place to do that, but what more can be done? Because you can see Kenyans expect a lot from this crop of governors.
Very interesting question. The one thing I know for sure is that I'm not quite certain that the current governors that have been elected really care about their ratings when they're in office. They care about their ratings when they're close to an election.
Okay.
But when they're in office,
isn't that a problem?
They really don't care much about it, which is a big problem because it shows a lot about their performance in office. You've raised a very interesting question about participation, calling for county meetings.
Yes,
they're very important. What actually happens, and we saw it also with IEBC, we have a tendency of our institutions disseminating information to the public, then calling it public participation.
But it's one-way communication.
Exactly.
Okay.
That we have already decided that this is the direction we're taking, this is what you've put in place to take this direction, and now we're informing you that this is where we're taking, this is where we're going. And that's what they call it. They call it public participation. We need to come out of that. I must say I've been involved in consultancy for instance, for a ministry that was very active in construction of, for instance, dams. And I remember one particular dam that we're going to set up. We looked at a lot of research material that had been generated about where the particular positioning of that dam should be in that county or in the counties that are bordering. And we went to the ground. With all this research material, we went to the ground and called a couple of stakeholders, and we were astonished to see the kind of knowledge that the locals have, because we were taken to different sites. An event that we anticipated to be a 1-2 day event ended up to be almost a week, and we got a wealth of knowledge from the locals who were there. And what was so astonishing is that some of these locals are former engineers, or rather they're still engineers because their title does not go away, but they are retired engineers.
Okay.
They know so much about the project that we want to undertake. Some of them are heads of various institutions. Some of them are local leaders. So we came out there with a wealth of knowledge, more than even what you had coming in. Exactly, much more than what we had, to a certain extent that we decided, why don't we consolidate all this with all this research, and now come up with a compiled report on the way forward, which is what public participation ought to be like. So having frequent county forum meetings really helps, because there are a lot of people in counties who can contribute a lot towards development projects. And development projects, we must be very sincere, are not specific. they are very broad.
Yes.
For instance, if you were to look at a county like Nairobi, you come from traffic to public sanitation to health.
Yes.
To the least water. Exactly. So if you call for
unemployment.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you call for county forum meetings to address certain specific areas,
yes,
then the experts in those areas will come and will contribute equally, which helps in your strategic planning. Then there is the issue of offering leadership. After getting all that, do you take all that material and input it into your considerations when you're planning, or do you ignore everything that you've collected and decide, since they have already given us their suggestions, we can continue with what we wanted to do, which has been the case in most times. Now we need to have a system that actually protects the citizens, according to the Constitution, their right to public participation in development.
Okay.
Then after that, they have the right to come and say, we gave you this information, now we want to hold you accountable with what you've done with that information. Okay. When we have that, we won't have some of these inflated costs for developing projects, whereby the projected cost of a project is this amount, but when the project starts up, the costs are inflated to benefit certain individuals.
Okay.
That does not occur.
Okay. Eric, let me hold you there. People talking to us on 22422. I'll read your SMS shortly. We also want to let you know that we are live in several locations. We'll shortly be taking you back. We're live in Nyeri County. Patrick Wahome Gakuru, Governor, going through that particular process. We'll cross over there as soon as we can. We're also live in Kisumu County. We are just seeing images earlier on of Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o taking his oath of office, moving from the position of senator to governor-elect to now governor. He was accompanied by his wife, his running mate, members of the family. We're also live in Siaya, Colonel Rasanga, and we will be crossing over there as soon as we get an opportunity. Earlier on, we brought you live images from Nairobi County. There was a big feat at Uhuru Park, where Governor Mike Sonko, his Deputy Governor Polycarp Igathe, also went through that same ceremony as well. And as soon as we get those live images, we will bring them to you. But we carry on with our discussion in studio. Just as Gary, let me read you an SMS here, and hopefully that can form part of our discussion. 2 SMSs actually. Someone here, Edwin Ongubo from Kisii, you tell us that, hey citizen, it's the people's choice. Let's give our leaders ample time. I think he was responding to whether we were, what we were talking about in regards to how much time do governors have to prove that they are working for their county, because we've seen situations where some governors have started working while they are still governor-elects. But the other question that I want to talk about, which is in terms of who is keeping governors accountable, which should be members of county assembly, is by a gentleman here called Wagongo Jeremiah from Omanyi, Chemelil, Moroni. Wow, Moroni sub-county. He says most of elected MCAs had substandard education. He even goes further. I don't know where his proof is. He says most of them could not read, this is very strong language, beyond the letter D in the book Animal Farm by George Orwell. And so he feels that a lot of the MCAs who are in office the first time round did not have the necessary educational qualifications to be able to understand and carry out their mandate. Justice, do you agree?
Let me say, leadership is not about the books that you have, but it's about the initiatives that you take as a leader. Sometimes we have seen voters in this country have the power to choose the leaders of their choice. And the world is not a bad place because of the bad deeds of the bad people, but the silence of the good people. We have seen the voters have been silent for a long time. I agree with my brothers, what they are saying about public participation, because in the NGO world, public participation is working very well. If you go to places like Northeastern, if a donor comes, he asks the people, what do you want me to help you in? They give their views, and the donor implements that fully. But when we come to the county government, they even call meetings of their friends, and they take tea as they discuss public participation. Then they pass their minutes, and then they agree that this is what the community has said, and yet they do nothing. So people have given their choice because they feel the people now in the office, the people, the governors who have been, who are now being sworn in, they feel now they can execute the mandate. Those who have been detained, some of them have done a good work, and that's why they have got a second chance. But I want to say that in as much as we, the citizens, in as much as we are the people who are giving these people the power to go and govern, we are still the people who have to give them the power and to look at what they are doing, whether it is according to what we send them to be. Some of the governors are giving very high expectations. We saw Honorable Ferdinand Oitito the other day. He is promising a lot of things. He wants to give free licenses. And some of these things, we have to look even their sustainability. Are these things sustainable? Some of the governors, when they get to the office, is now I'm the chief boss. They even get worried about the position. Because the position now is big, now you think now because you are the chief boss, you can now suspend, you can suspend your activities that maybe even your manifesto. Very few people have been talented in leadership, and a leader is not a leader because of the seat. You are first a leader. That's why now you went to ask people to vote you. But if you are going to be voted in to become a leader, then you are not a leader. The problem is that most of us, we want to claim the seat, we want to get the seat to become the leader, to become the counter boss. But if you realize you have a talent in you, if you realize you are burden is the people, you want to help the people, because county governments, the reason why we have devolved system is because there are parts that the national government do not have reached, that they have given us these powers to execute, to uplift the poverty of the people. But what are we seeing? We are seeing the opposite. We are seeing governors, they think 5 years is not a big time, and now they want to keep a lot of money, keep a lot of cash for their campaigns for the next few years.
I'll interrupt you there, Justice. I can see in another life you have a good chance of being a motivational speaker. I hope that when governors have a forum, they'll call you because you have a strong message. So let me bring Raphael into this particular conversation. Members of County Assembly, 90 to 95% of them were sent home. Strong message clearly, and I hope that message is reaching those who are incoming. Someone has mentioned the issues of education. How do you think, Justice says not really, he says leadership is inborn or can be learned. It's not that you must be highly educated to be a good leader. Do you agree?
First of all, I mean, I wouldn't want to downplay the importance of education, but let me talk about capacity more than education.
More than education, okay.
Members of the County Assembly need capacity for them to be able to hold governors accountable. Remember, we are giving governors lots of money, billions, but if there's no one to hold them in check, and county assemblies are supposed to do that, then it becomes very difficult. Remember, county assembly, part of what they need to do is to, oversight and legislation. But if they do not have capacity to do that, then governors will run amok, and that's why you realize most county assemblies are not even able to pass, to formulate or develop a single policy, and wananchi are concerned about it. That is one. But two, I think the voter was not aware of the importance of the county assembly position. And now they've realized how important that is, and that's why they replaced a number of them. As to whether we should give governors time, I think we shouldn't give them time. I think we should hold them accountable from day one, and we should demand a lot more from them. Remember, if they do not declare their agenda on arrival, they won't declare it 3 days.
Right now, in reference to what you're seeing on your screen for Okoth Obado, you're saying he does not have time.
He does not have time. He hit the ground. Magufuli said hapa ni kazi too from day one. So you need to do that from day one. From day one, you need to rattle the networks of corruption within your county and say, I've arrived, I don't want to. But if you let them even settle down for a week, they're going to regroup, consolidate, and it's going to become impossible for you to remove them. So I think we must start running where other people are working. We should start now. We shouldn't even give them time.
Michael, let's refer to the images that we're looking at on our screen. Of course, we are live in Migori County, where Okoth Obado, we've just seen images there, the swearing-in ceremony. He has been given a second term. So, of course, this is a bit different from what you might see in other areas where there's a handing over of the instruments of power. He was running on an ODM ticket, got 195,854 versus Ochilo Ayako, who was flying on an independent ticket, garnered 111,250 votes. I want to bring Michael into just what we're seeing on our screen. Are the expectations on governors too weighty? Too weighty for one man, too weighty for 5 years? Are we asking for too much?
We're not asking for too much. This gentleman ran for these offices knowing that they are constitutionally able to run for these offices as it's described in what the requirements are. And secondly, they've also been able to appeal to the people and promise them so much that they thought they would be able to deliver within the constitutional time frame of any elected officer of the government. And therefore, I just feel that sometimes we promise so much, like these governors and the politicians.
And I was going to ask you about our promising.
We promise so much, and then suddenly we realize, oh, we can't deliver this thing. And then once we realize we can't deliver it, then we make sure that we run around with some goons, but if you ask too many questions, we have to hit your head a little bit so that you can quote a little bit, and then we pass as we buy time. And this is what we've seen over time happening, you know. And the goal is not an exception.
Let me interrupt because I want us to make this practical. We are accused of being just a talk shop. Let's talk about Nairobi County.
Yeah.
We saw the inauguration ceremony in the morning. These are some of the things that Governor Sonko spoke about. Let me list them for you. He spoke about dealing with cartels. He spoke about cleaning up a dirty Nairobi. He spoke about eradicating water cartels. He spoke about fixing understaffed medical facilities. He spoke about supporting traders who he says have been harassed in the past. He talked about improving our sewage and drainage system. He spoke about uplifting the lifestyle or standards of people living with disability. I've read just 7. Those are the ones I could quickly catch from his speech. So let's talk about it realistically. In your opinion, you understand Nairobi, you've lived here for a long time, you're an analyst. Of those 7, how many can he achieve in less than 5 years?
My big problem is not how much he'll be able to achieve.
In terms of the boxes.
My big problem is how does he want to achieve them? That is the problem. He's not telling us how he wants to achieve them and with a time frame. My brother here talked about a strategic plan. A strategic plan is there's a short term, there's a medium, and there's a long term. What he could have justified his promise to the Nairobians that in the short term this is what I want to do for you. In the medium term this is what I want to do for you. And in the long term this is what I want to do for you. Let me just give you an example of even the sewer, fixing the sewer. Land has been grabbed. There is no places for the sewer to run through. You have to pay for this land for you to be able to have even spaces for this guy to put their sewer. Does he know that? Is he going to evacuate people? How much is he going to use to pay them? And let me go back to something we were talking about here in regards to the NCA, County Assembly. And somebody rightfully put it clearly that actually some of these MCAs were not able to read past D. And I want to bring your attention to one single MCA in Rift Valley who did his class 8 when he was already an MCA. Do you want to tell me that this individual will be able to prepare a bill, deliberate on this bill, understand the standing order of the county assembly, and be able to vote on what he understands? Absolutely not. I will give you a reference to what the outgoing speaker of Homa Bay County said. He said Homa Bay had big issues with the MCA to an extent where they were not even able to have meetings because they were not having any bills to discuss. Now that tells me how impaired these counties can be when you have a moribund MCA that are not educated. And for your information, all of them are gone except only 6 that are coming back to the house. That can tell you that education is key, especially when you want to interrogate issues of national importance. When you want to interrogate bills, it is key when you want to talk about policies that governs that country, that county. You need to understand what is going on, and you need to peruse through those papers and say, I agree with this, and for that reason I vote the bill. If that doesn't happen, and you know it is in the Constitution, there are standard requirements for an MCA, an MP, and everybody else. The question is, why are we not implementing those things? And you know they keep on coming. You've had cases of elected leaders coming in with fake certificates. Well, you mean we cannot do our due diligence and ensure that this individual doesn't even have a diploma for that reason? Now, why are we pushing them through? I know an individual that has several IDs and they have belonging, and then if you still went through, and then later on you expect these individuals to deliberate on bills and pass those bills. That is why these governors have had a field day, simply because the people that are supposed to check on them do not have the capacity to do so.
Not have the capacity. You've talked about capacity. Rafael has talked about capacity. It seems we're going to have to talk a bit more about that when we come back. But for now, let's go back to Kisumu County, where Governor Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o is giving his speech, first speech as governor. Let's listen in.
For standing for truth in the nation of Kenya. So may I ask you, the good citizens of Kisumu and our friends, to observe a minute of silence. May the Lord Almighty rest their eternal souls in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, in this very sports ground, a few days ago, almost a week now, we set up tents here to my right, which are set up there to be a rescue and emergency center for those who have been hurt, who need hospitalization, and who are traumatized. We have counselors there, we have legal officers there, we have nurses there. So far we have received about 171 people whom we have directed to proper counseling and proper care. I ask you all, as indeed World Vision, Red Cross, Kisumu professionals in Nairobi and many others have joined us, to bring food and care to our suffering brothers. We also requested the national government and the county government to reduce the budget of this occasion by about 10 million shillings to give support to our suffering brothers and sisters. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Allah be great. Jah lives. I call upon you, the people of Kisumu County, including the people of cosmopolitan Kisumu City, an inclusive city for all the people of Kenya and all other nationalities of the world, to rise up for a moment above the misery that has befallen us and come together determined to build this county for a better future for our children and our children's children. I would like to thank the Lord God Almighty, the God of all ages, in whom we live and move and have our being. Without him, the world is but an incomprehensible setup. But with him, the fruits of our labor is blessed. Our desires and intentions are made powerful, and our lives most rewarding. The God was, the God is, and God will always be supreme during elections and at ordinary times. It does not matter how many times we try to cheat him, to hide from him, and even to try to hack him. When all is said and done, God will finally catch.
A snippet there from Kisumu County, the first speech by the second governor of the county, Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o. We interrupt that set. We can also get another snippet now of a speech in Uasin Gishu County, Governor Jackson Mandago. Actually not a speech, he's actually being sworn in. Let's take a look at those pictures.
Functions in the said office to the best of my judgment, and that I shall do justice to all. So help me God.
Wapi shangwe na vigelegele? Wapi shangwe? Uasin Gishu. Asanteni sana. Hivi sasa kiwa yanaweka sahihi. Wapi? Tumpigie tena makofi. His Excellency the Governor Uasin Gishu County. Sema tano tena. Hiyo mnasema na wivu. Wapi tano tena? Asante sana. Mama naona ndio wanashangilia zaidi. Wazee kwani shida iko wapi? Wazee wanasema kina mama peke yao tano tena. Asante sana. Bila shaka His Excellency the Governor of Uasin Gishu County akiweka sahihi. Najua kuna wale mko nyuma hamuoni huku mbele, ndio kile ambacho kinaendelea hivi.
After a bruising battle for the gubernatorial seat in Uasin Gishu County over the last few months, all focus has been on Uasin Gishu, many speculating on whether the victory would go to the incumbent, Jackson Mandago, or his very worthy opponent, Zedekiah Bundotich, better known as Buzeki. But The voters decided they went with the incumbent on a Jubilee ticket, Jackson Mandago, and he is completing the process by signing the legal documentation that will make his second term valid. Of course, he has to go through this particular process because, as we know, a swearing-in process is both legal but also political to some extent, but mainly legal. But there are certain expectations, and that is what is happening now. We've crossed over to Migori County. Quite a busy day, I must say, here in studio as we are keeping a watch on what is happening in the different counties. In Migori County, Okoth Obado now going through a process that he must be familiar with, bearing in mind he did have the opportunity of doing this again in 2013. He is taking his oath of office, continuation, so he will not receive any legal instruments in that sense because he is the incumbent governor. He had quite a battle also on his hands against Ochilo Ayako, and he triumphed. Let's listen in right now. Right, there we go. That part of the process has been completed in Migori County. Of course, Obado is now left where he was taking his oath of office. He's going to sign the legal documentation, I believe. As I mentioned, it's quite a day here, and a bit of a challenge being a live environment for our teams on the ground, endeavoring to bring you the best pictures. Sometimes that doesn't work because of the excitement of this particular ceremony, a lot of shove and push and pull. So we're trying to monitor what's happening there while bringing you the best pictures as well. As soon as we can get better pictures from Migori, we'll go back there. Let's go to Siaya now, I believe. Not yet, where Colonel Vasanga was getting a second chance to lead the people of Siaya. He garnered 196,186 votes. There, okay. Back to Migori, I believe. There we go. Okoth Obado. Cameraman now getting a better shot even as he signs the documentation that will confirm him as a governor who's gotten a second term in office, and his running mate will also need to go through the same process. And then after that, it is up to the governor and his team to confirm to the voters that they made the right choice picking him, to stick to the promises that he made, to deliver. And what my panel here in studio is saying is that governors have no time. There is no moment when they can relax and celebrate their win, because the expectation from members of the public is very high. Voters asking for jobs, voters asking for development, infrastructure, improvements. Also, we expect to see in this second term or another 5 years of once the devolution took root, we expect to see competition between counties where governors will boast that we have done this in our county, and voters will then ask their governors, what about our county? How come we are not seeing that development? And of course, friendly competition is always good, gentlemen, I believe. I don't think it's a bad thing, especially if it will spur governors to be more creative, to work harder, to look further for investment and opportunities and ideas, and also the involvement of members of the county, those who have, achieved certain things, engineers, doctors, lawyers. How can you involve them in building the county? I think, Eric, you are talking about that quite a bit. Capacity building, not just with the county staff, but also looking at retirees in your counties. Where can you place them so they can be of benefit to the community, especially those that have skills, those that have the requisite education to make a difference. Okay, so just keeping an eye out on what's happening in Migori County. Also, we had just come from Siaya County. We showed you those live images of what was happening there, and Kisumu County as well. Shortly, we will be handing over to the Kiswahili team for the Nipashe edition of Citizen Extra. But I'll give my panelists each a minute just to briefly give their take on what we are seeing on our screens. I'll start with, let me start with you, Raphael. I don't think we haven't had your voice. 30 seconds each of you. Just to wrap up, we talked about counties and devolution
for the last almost 3 hours in line with what's happening across the country. What's your final message?
Citizens have great expectations, and it is my hope and the hopes of millions of Kenya that the current crop of governors and the current crop of leaders are going to have the courage to do what is right. I think the urge to maintain a reputation for integrity and service to the people should be much stronger than the urge to make quick wealth and to, to maintain the status quo. So they need to do that. And to the citizens, I think we should do just 3 things. We should criticize these governors when they're underperforming, or when they're not doing the right thing. We should challenge them when they're underperforming, they're not pulling up their way. But we should also compliment and cooperate with them when they're doing the right thing. So
are they all 3?
Yeah, 3 things. Criticize, challenge, and compliment.
Criticize, challenge, and compliment. Okay, just a parting shot from you.
First of all, I look forward to the governorship of Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, because I know he's an academician, and he has also been a religious man, and we have seen that he has the interests of the people at heart. So I look forward to his leadership. Apart from that, I want to say that we Kenyans, we need to be working on ourselves, even as we trust for the leaders to work on, to do as their mandate. Because most of the time we expect so much, we have so much high expectation to these leaders. Sometimes they promise us heaven because they want our votes, but at the end of the day we realize they perform so poorly. So when we say that as we continue working as Kenyans, let us understand our mandate as citizens, because if we understand our mandate and if we are working together, we know we are going to be the people who will be accountable to ourselves, and even the leadership that we are going to expect. Sometimes we stoop too low to these leaders, and they take us for granted. Let us challenge ourselves and we stand firm as Kenyans, because we know this country is ours and we have to be proud of it. Otherwise, I know we are going to have very, very successful governorship, having in mind that the last time we had 5 years of people who just came into a forest, they don't know the way. But now we have people now who are in the forest. They know the forest, but they are just stuck in there. Right now we have people who have seen 5 years experience of the previous leadership and who are now expected to work better.
Just as I hope I'll be as optimistic as you. Of course, we need to keep working that. So parting shot,
Wahiga, you're one of the most prolific journalists we have around. And if you don't believe us from day one, you have no business being where you are. In day one or even in 5 years.
I hope my bosses are listening to
so these governors cannot tell us they need any time. They should start delivering from day one. Number 2, very quickly. For these MCAs who may not be qualified, you have people like Winston Churchill, who was not such an academician. We have people like Richard Branson, who is dyslexic or something. And you can see the kind of leadership that they've offered. If they cannot be able to stand up to what is required of them, let them get some of us consultants. We'll come in and help you with your bill, and we can be able to move forward. Finally, with regards to, for instance, Nairobi County, you mentioned about the way some governors are working, and you also said about Sonko saying that he's going to eradicate cartels. If he wants to eradicate cartels, the first thing that he needs to do is to get rid of that whole notion of Sonko rescue teams. That is conflict of or conflict of interest. We need to understand that a county such as Nairobi, you need to balance between building a world-class city and leading a world-class city. Both sides will be required of him. He has experience being a member of parliament, being in Senate, though there is nothing much that has been written in terms of legislation that is proposed, but he knows how to move the numbers to favor his county. We expect a lot from him, because we need to transform Nairobi into a world-class city. Governors to look out for. The governors that have been re-elected, you have Nanok Turkana, who's the governor to look out for. Alfred Mutua, Machakos, governor to look out for. Kibuda Kibwana, governor to look out for. We have Joho, governor to look out for. The governors who are coming. Let me tell you the trouble you're putting me in here. You're mentioning a certain percentage of the 47. People are watching. They're saying, well, how come my governor is the governors that have been re-elected. Okay. The governors who have been elected. We have people like now Governor Anyang' Nyong'o. Okay. He's been brilliant, especially with the national planning. He's been part of national planning in this country for quite a while. We want to see how he's going to transform Kisumu into a world-class city as well. So we know he's going to do a lot there. Other governors to look out for, Sonko is somebody to look out for. Then we can think about people like taking your parting to people like as well. Okay, we can look outside. Michael,
20 seconds, please.
It might be slightly more, but anyways,
My
I just want to
10.
congratulate all the governors that are being inaugurated today or being sworn in today. Governor Professor Nyong'o, we have Madago, Governor Madago, we have Governor Sonko, and many other governors that are being sworn in today. The world is watching. The expectation is so up there that, man, you need to hit the road running very, very quickly. But I want to say this. In most cases, we want the governors to be checked by the county assembly, and they put a lot of focus on the county assembly, forgetting that the very county assembly members are politicians. When you're going to look for votes again, these politicians will not be with you. They'll be running for their dear life to get votes from their backyard, and they will never mention you in the equation, especially if you did not do a good job. The people that will check you as the governors are the citizens, and those citizens are the ones who vote you in for a second term. For those who are having their second term now, kudos. You have 5 years that you need to prove to the world, and especially if you want to be ambitious to hold any key position in this country, probably run for president or run for Senate or run for, become the deputy president. You've got 5 years to show, and if you don't prove yourself in the next 5 years, it will be very difficult to move to the next step.
Thank you, Michael. The music is playing. That's a sign that I have gone beyond my stated time. Let me just finish by reading a message from Jerry Nanga. She says, citizen education and the major role of public participation should be priority, just echoing what my panelists have said. Governors should ask us our priorities, not inform us what they want. That's how we wind up this program. Many thanks indeed for being with us on the English edition of Citizen Extra. Time now for the Nipashe or Kiswahili edition of Citizen Extra. Babu Swalem-Doe is up to the task. He will carry on with this particular discussion. But for now, I believe we end up by crossing back to Migori County, where Okoth Obado, the deputy governor, is now taking his oath of office. Let's listen into that.